Hope was springing eternal before our unprecedented fourth consecutive season of spring football, but now it just seems like 4 weeks into the season, we are in chaos, or at least a heavy state of confusion about what is going on with the league. Is this the death rattle of yet another alternative football league, or are we just going through some growing pains? The coaching carousel since kickoff has been exhausting. DC Defenders head coach Reggie Barlow left before the season to take a job at Tennessee State. Before Week 1 started, Memphis Showboats head coach Whisenhunt announced a leave of absence that lasted 1 week. He returned for Week 2 and Week 3, and then announced he was stepping down for good. That same day, San Antonio Brahmas head coach Wade Phillips announced he was also stepping down, just after the team announced this Wade Phillips giveaway for season ticket holders. There was no reason given for the two stepping down on the same day other than some speculation about health, but no matter what the reason is, best wishes to both coaches. All this came after DC defensive coordinator Gregg Williams left after Week 2 to join Barlow at Tennessee State. And San Antonio offensive coordinator A.J. Smith stepped down after the second week because of reported disagreements about the Brahmas offense. UFL Executive Vice President of Operations Daryl Johnston told USA Today, "There is not one single incident in all the moves that have anything to do with it being a result of a lack of confidence in what we're building in the UFL." The teams are reshuffling staff, they're hiring coaches off the street, and really trying to find their footing as we head into the midway point of the season. And with all that, you also have to wonder if there is waning interest in the league as we hit the midway point. We all know the attendance announcements are inflated because we are assuming most of these numbers that are released are tickets distributed rather than fans in the stands. For instance, this was an announced crowd at Memphis in Week 3 of 4,700, which that number in itself is rough, and that's tickets distributed. This was not a crowd of 4,700. We're even seeing a reported 6% drop in St. Louis, the league's strongest market. Front Office Sports reports that the average game attendance is down almost 4% compared to the average through 3 weeks last season. Yes, I've seen the comments, just enjoy the league. Stop whining about attendance. Why do you keep harping on ratings? Well, if you want to ignore all that and just enjoy the UFL, that is awesome. But as someone who has seen a lot of these spring leagues come and go, you start to see patterns develop. But maybe we can find some good news with the TV ratings. Mike Mitchell, who is all over the ratings reports, had these numbers from the first 4 weeks. According to Mike Mitchell, Week 1 averaged just over 559,000 viewers, increased to an average of more than 602,000 in Week 2, and rose again in Week 3 to nearly 666,000. Week 4 saw another jump, an average of 731,250 viewers watching the 4 games, with a high of more than 900,000 watching the St. Louis-Arlington game Saturday. Now, according to the UFL, in 2024, the league averaged 850,000 total viewers per game. We are not seeing numbers like that yet, but this steady growth week over week is encouraging. Some good news on the labor front as the United Football Players Association and the UFL finally came to a collective bargaining agreement after 6 months of negotiations. ESPN's Kevin Seifert reporting that the players who play all 10 games get a $7,000 raise on the minimum salaries, and the big one, all players are eligible for year-round health care. There are some benchmarks that any sports league will measure itself against to determine if they're on the right course. There's revenue, but with an upstart league, you know this is not going to make money right out of the gate, so that's an incomplete grade right now. Let's look at attendance now. Announced average attendance has been up and down over the first 4 weeks, with a Week 2 average topping 16,000. That was bolstered by St. Louis's home opener. Bookended with a low of 8,400 in Week 1 and 9,593 in Week 4. No, the main business model is not based on attendance, but if you cannot draw interest in some of these home cities, how can you expect to draw interest nationwide? This is a definite D grade, with St. Louis and DC's announced numbers along with improved attendance from Michigan keeping this from being a failing grade. There's been talk by UFL officials about expanding the league, maybe by 2 teams next year, possibly more in 2027. Now, some of us had high hopes that there was going to be this big announcement recently at halftime of the most watched game so far this season, but
I am thrilled to announce that the UFL championship will be returning to St. Louis.
The jury is still out on growth, so it's another incomplete grade. Let's just keep our fingers crossed for some good news soon. There are a lot of variables at play as we hit the midway point of the 2025 season. Can this fledgling league, though, withstand all of these early season stumbles? Or will the chaos and low attendance have the league's leadership rethinking the whole thing? Now, the good news is financially, Fox owns half the league, so their expenses barely make a dent in the network budgets. But there's also Redbird Capital, The Rock, and Danny Garcia, who own the other half of the league. They are not in this business to spend money without a return on investment. Now, the 2022 and 2023 USFL, that was completely owned by Fox. They had a plan to launch the league and then sell the franchises to local owners. That did not materialize over the 2 seasons of the USFL, and the league merged with the 1-season revival of the XFL to create the UFL. And maybe that's still some of the long game with the UFL and everyone involved, that they will try to sell some of these franchises. But if that doesn't happen, you have to wonder, unless there's a change in ownership or a change in the business plan, it is really hard to see how this league can continue long term. I'm trying to stay positive, and I certainly enjoy the gameplay, the stories, and of course talking with you all about the UFL. Let's hope that there is a course correction set for the near future and spring football continues in the form that we have it now, because if this experiment fails like so many before, spring football could be a tough sell for networks and fans in the future. Check out these videos for a look back at a couple of previous attempts at spring football, and as always, thank you for watching. And if you enjoy alt football content, be sure to like and subscribe, and also check out altfootball.com.